Today, we're going to dive into a really cool, kind of mind-bending new AI method. It's called Wasserstein Flow Matching. Now, what it does is teach a computer how to create these super complex 3D objects, but not in the way you might think. We're not talking about drawing lines or placing polygons. Nope. It learns by sculpting entire clouds of points, all at once. Let's dig in and see how on earth it works. So let's start with a basic question. How do you get an AI to dream up something like a chair or a car or even something way more complex like a biological system completely from scratch? Well, it doesn't start with a digital block of marble or clay. The process actually begins with something much, much more fundamental. It all starts with something called a point cloud. Just picture it. Thousands of tiny individual dots, each one with its own X, Y, and Z coordinate, just hanging there in space. When you put them all together, they define the surface of an object. This is basically the raw material for our AI sculptor. But, and this is a big but, actually generating these clouds is surprisingly difficult. And here's why. This slide gets right to the core of the problem. A point cloud is a set of points. It's not an ordered list. What that means is you can shuffle the order of those points a million times, and guess what? It's still the exact same chair. This property has a fancy name, permutation invariance. And for most generative AI models, which are used to the super strict order of pixels in an image or words in a sentence, this is a massive, massive roadblock. Okay, so to get around this, researchers first turned to a pretty clever idea. They thought, what if you could just teach an AI to find a path from a totally meaningless cloud of random noise all the way to the structured point cloud of a chair? And a straight path would obviously be the most efficient way to do it. So this general idea is called flow matching. The goal here is to train a model to learn what's called the velocity field. Think of it like a set of GPS instructions for every single point of random noise, telling it exactly how to move along a path until it lands precisely where it needs to be to help form the final object. Basically, the AI learns to create a flow from total chaos into perfect structure. But wait, how do you even pair up the starting noise points with the final shape points? Well, the simple way, on the left, is called independent coupling, which is basically just random pairing. And as you can see, this creates these tangled, curved, super inefficient paths that are a real headache for the AI to learn. But then there's a much smarter approach, on the right, called optimal transport, or OT. It actually finds the most efficient pairing possible, which minimizes the total travel distance and creates these beautiful straight paths. So this should make the AI's job way, way easier, right? Or so you think. And this is the moment where we just slam into a wall. That really elegant solution, optimal transport, which works so well for other types of data, well, it runs into a catastrophic problem when it's faced with the unique nature of point clouds. The problem is that permutation invariance thing we were just talking about. For a cloud with n points, there are n factorial, that's n times n minus 1 times n minus 2, all the way down, possible ways to order those points. For even a simple 2048 point cloud, that number it's just astronomically large. We're talking way more than the number of atoms in the known universe. And standard OT has to try and consider all of these possibilities. It completely collapses under the weight of it all. The researchers themselves put it pretty bluntly. As you can see from this quote, trying to find that perfect point-to-point mapping, what they call sample-level OT, is just way too computationally expensive. It's just not practical for generating complex 3D shapes. This chart really lays out the dilemma perfectly. You can see the trade-offs right here. Independent coupling, it's fast, but it doesn't work well. Standard mini-batch OT, also fast, but as we just saw, it's pretty useless for point clouds. And then you have equivariant OT. Now this one is effective because it can handle the permutations, but it is excruciatingly slow, like over 40 times slower. It just creates this major training bottleneck. So we're basically stuck between a rock and a hard place. So this is where Wasserstein Flow Matching, or WFM, comes in. And it comes in with a totally radical shift in how to think about the problem. It basically says, hey, maybe we've been asking the wrong question this whole time. The breakthrough insight is this. What if we just stop trying to create a perfect one-to-one map between individual noise points and individual shape points? What if instead we could learn how to transform the entire cloud of noise into the entire cloud of the final shape, all in one go? And that, right there, is the absolute essence of Wasserstein Flow Matching. It lifts the problem from the level of individual points to the level of entire distributions. Think of it this way. The AI is no longer learning how to move individual grains of sand. It's learning how to reshape the entire sand dune all at once. It's treating each point cloud as a single, whole entity. This table from the research paper makes that lift we're talking about crystal clear. Look at the top row. Standard flow matching operates on single points. But on the bottom, Wasserstein Flow Matching operates on entire distributions. That's what those mu and nu symbols represent. This is the fundamental game-changing shift that lets it completely sidestep the permutation problem. So, the big question is, what does this breakthrough actually let us do? It sounds cool, but what's the payoff? Well, by thinking in terms of these entire worlds of points, WFM unlocks a whole new level of generative power. So here's a quick, high-level look at how it actually works. First, the algorithm grabs a random noise cloud and a target shape. Then it mathematically figures out a path between the entire source cloud and the entire target cloud. The AI's job is just to learn the velocity of that transformation at every single step. And once it's trained, it can take any new cloud of noise and apply that learned velocity to generate a completely new, totally coherent shape. And the results are, well, they're stunning. WFM can generate these highly realistic and diverse 3D models of cars, chairs, airplanes, you name it. But it can also do some incredible things, like completing a full 3D object when you only give it a partial view. Or, and this is wild, it can smoothly morph one object into another, like literally transforming a lamp into a handbag. But what's truly exciting here, and this is where it gets really interesting, is that this method isn't just for making cool computer graphics. Because it operates on distributions, you can apply it to any system that can be described as a collection of points. And that includes incredibly complex, high-dimensional data straight from the world of science. For instance, just take a look at this. On the left, that's real biological data representing a complex cellular microenvironment. Every dot is a cell with its own unique properties. And on the right, that's a brand new microenvironment generated by WFM. It actually captures the intricate structure and the relationships between the different cell types with remarkable accuracy. This shows its potential as a seriously powerful tool for scientific modeling and discovery. So, the key takeaway here is pretty simple, but it's also really profound. By completely reframing the problem, by moving from the impossible task of matching individual points to the elegant one of transforming entire distributions or entire worlds, Wasserstein Flow Matching has unlocked a more powerful, scalable, and versatile way for AI to create things. And this leaves us with a fascinating final question to chew on. Now that AI has a tool to generate not just pictures of things, but entire multi-component systems with complex internal structures, what new realities are we going to ask it to model? From molecular dynamics to urban planning to cosmological simulations, the possibilities are really just starting to unfold.